guys. We got us a big beaver over here. Right here was our set. Right there, some fresh sign. He's hanging right down. There he is. Right there. You can see now, look, I want you guys to look at this real quick. This is a perfect catch. He got two big toes in that thing. See that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
There's no way he's going to get out of that until I let him out. Good as new. Yep. Morning, guys. Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. Just got finished with the Hudson Bay trapping class, and I'm kind of in between classes at the moment. We had some really foul weather out here the last week. It's been pouring down rain for 4 to 5 days straight. And I wanted to have a discussion with you guys today about the realities of trapping. And I want you to first understand that a lot of what you see on the internet as far as what people would use or take along with them or keep in their packs for long-term self-reliance of survival is a bunch of bunk, okay? If you think for 1 minute that you can take a pellet rifle out into the woods and live off that pellet rifle, you got another thing coming. You might get the occasional squirrel, maybe once in a while you get a rabbit, but you're not going to eat very good. Long-term, your body's going to deteriorate from lack of calories. You've got to learn to do things the old-fashioned way if you want to learn how to be self-reliant in the wilderness. You've got to be able to take game, and you've got to be able to take it on a regular basis, and you're not going to do that with hunting alone. You know, the American pioneers, the frontiersmen, the mountain men of the Old West, none of those guys relied on only a firearm, and it sure wasn't a pellet gun, to secure all of the meat that they ate on a daily basis. They relied on traps. Trapping is a staple item for anyone who wants to be long-term self-reliant, not only for meat and for food and for calories and for fat and for proteins, but also for the hides. You're not going to make anything usable out of a squirrel hide or a rabbit hide unless you've got a lot of them, and rabbit hides are very thin. You're going to need bigger animals than that. Bigger animals than that are going to require bigger traps and bigger guns, bigger weapons, which is why I profess the 12 gauge so much. The 12 gauge shotgun will kill anything in North America. Yes, the ammo is heavy. It doesn't matter. Tough it out. Your kit should be light enough once you've figured out what your 10 C's of survivability are going to be, once you've figured out what your shelter option is going to be, which could be a hammock with an underquilt and a heavy sleeping bag is going to keep you warm enough and dry enough with a good tarp for some very cold weather. Long term, build yourself a big heavy-duty shelter like the debris hut we've got back here at the Hunters Camp. But for the time being, you can live for several days in just that hammock if you need to while you're building something better. But all that time, you better be looking for food. Nuts, berries, that stuff's not going to get it. You're going to have long-term, sustainable proteins and fats, and that means you're going to have a lot of meat. Now, Lewis and Clark, on their expedition, they recorded in their journal that the people that were with them, when it was available, ate 9 pounds of meat per day per man. 9 pounds. That is unfathomable to me, how anyone could eat 9 pounds of meat a day. But I guarantee you I could eat 2 or 3 pounds a day. And that's a whole lot more than one squirrel every couple days with a pellet rifle or one rabbit every now and then with my 22. You're going to need a lot of meat. Trapping is the way to do that. Traps are heavy, okay? Let's talk about traps for long-term self-reliance for a minute. Don't kid yourself. You're not going to catch a lot of stuff with makeshift primitive traps and primitive snares. Even snares made out of picture wire frame or picture wire material are going to be very limited in their usage. For short-term survival, they're fine. Same thing with bank line. You can catch rabbits, you can catch squirrels. You get anything bigger than that in a snare that's made out of bank line or picture wire, and he's going to destroy it. It's not going to be there when you get there in the morning. You have to rely on heavy-duty cable-type snares. A snare like this that's made for a bobcat or a coyote will hold a deer if it has to. So this is 7x7 cable, all right? Understand that. Don't carry little pitty-anty snares with you if you're going to try to affect long-term survivability or you're building a bug-out bag or whatever you want to call it for a long-term stay in the woods or in the wilderness or outside of an urban area. You're going to need heavy-duty cable snares. You can use thinner wire diameters than this for smaller animals and carry 12 of those, but you can carry some of these too, and they don't take that much room up in your pack and they don't weigh that much for what they'll do for you. But remember, back to our discussion about snares. These are a one-time deal. You get one big coon hung up in this snare and it's over. You'll never use this snare again. So if I've got 12 of these snares, I got 12 catches. In a long-term self-reliance or survivability scenario, that's unacceptable. The only thing that leaves is steel traps. Steel traps will catch you all the food you could possibly need, save your ammunition for emergencies. But now you're talking about carrying this. All right, you're talking about carrying 10, 15, 20 pounds of traps with you on top of your kit. That's where being in shape comes into play. All right, you need to be in shape for this kind of stuff. You're not going to walk through the woods, tramp through the woods miles or whatever the case may be, running any kind of a trap line, even if it's a daisy chain outside your camp, that's just a couple of miles. You're not going to hump through the woods with this stuff very easy if you don't have pretty good stamina. So while your kit is lightweight, your longer term stuff that's going to supply you food, which is what you've got to have, and fur and things like that, they're going to be heavy, but they got to be bulletproof. These traps right here are all Victors. These are all Victor single spring traps, number 1s and number 2s, and I guarantee you not one of these traps in a string is probably less than 30 or 40 years old, and every one of them traps as good today as it did 40 years ago. So they don't have to be brand spanking new, all shiny, happy traps. You can get this stuff off eBay, you can get it at rummage sales, garage sales, antique stores. Just look at it and make sure it's not all pitted with rust. And if it's not, you can bring it back into good working order just like these are. I could carry this string of traps right here with me in my pack, and I guarantee you I wouldn't go hungry. Now, if you're going to try to catch something big, these are great for coon, great for possum. They'll hold a coyote, they'll hold a fox. But if I want to catch some real sustainability meat, you know, like a big 40, 50 pound beaver, now we're talking this, okay? And I would not go anywhere without at least one of these in my repertoire, because you're not going to hold a beaver with anything smaller than this. A beaver's got a foot that big around, okay? So if you're trying to catch that beaver on a bank set, and I'll put some footage at the end of this video of a set for a beaver that was live released and it was set up to hold him alive. This is what you're going to have to get his foot in that trap. He's not going to get his foot in some little baby trap. You're going to have a big trap for that thing. Bigger animals require bigger traps. That's just the name of the game. But you can get away with these number 1s and number 2s and catch all the meat you want. Conibears. There's always a place for conibears. But I would definitely go with a couple 220s if I'm going to do that, and not all 110s, because the size of that conibear dictates the size of the animal you're going to catch. These conibears are set up, the number of the conibear dictates how many pounds per square inch of crushing power that trap has. A 110 is 110 pounds per square inch. A 220 is 220 pounds per square inch. But the size of the diameter of this, inside the square, the inside, is what dictates how big of an animal you can take. This will take a beaver. It might not take a great big giant beaver, but it'll kill beaver. And it weighs less than this. Not much less, but a little bit less. But you got the capability with this of getting coons that you're not going to have with this. So long term, I'm going to take a few of these conibears with me as well. Yes, your traps are going to have some weight to them. I'm not going to sit here and BS you and try to lie to you and say, oh, traps don't weigh that much. Traps are heavy. You get 10, 15, 20 traps in your pack, you're going to be humping a load. But I can guarantee you, if you learn how to use those traps, you understand the capability of those traps, the versatility of those traps, you will not go hungry. And that is the only thing, long term, that's going to keep you alive, is to be able to feed yourself. And most people in the survival world today, preppers, long-term survivalists, people that build bug-out bags and bug-out kits, that's where they're fooling themselves. They don't understand that long-term, you've got to have food. And I don't care if you store food or not, sooner or later it's going to run out. And without these, or a heavy caliber firearm, you're not going to sustain yourself in meat. So get used to that fact now. Learn how to trap. Learn these skills. Learn the skills of the frontier era. Learn how the mountain men lived. Learn how to tan fur. Learn how to make buckskin. Learn how to do things that you can make clothing with, footwear with if you have to in a long-term emergency. Learn how to put meat on the table for yourself and for your family. The way to do that is trapping. Trapping is much, much more effective. It's much less calories expended than hunting. Once I set these traps in the ground, I can leave them there. Yeah, I got to check them every day, but I don't have to check them, constantly like I would if I was hunting. I don't have to walk around the woods looking for the next animal to shoot. All I have to do is let this trap sit and work for me. The animals that I catch make a lot of things. They make bait for the next animal. They make lures for other animals. They make food for the table, and they'll make clothing or trade goods if I need them, if I've got brain tan hides. So those are the things you need to think about, and that's what this video is about. Is I want you to think really hard about long-term survivability and quit letting people fool you into thinking that a few little pieces of picture wire and a pellet rifle or a 22 are going to carry you through long term, because they're not going to do it. You're going to need something bigger as far as firepower, and you're going to need something bigger as far as trapping goes, and this is the way to do that. Okay? Well, I appreciate you guys joining me for this video today. I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. I hope this wasn't too over the top for some people, because this is stuff that not too many people talk about, but I wanted to get it out there to you while I was doing this trapping series. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everything you do for me, for my school, for my family. We've got a survival trapping class coming up weekend after next. I'd love to see you there. You can check our schedule at www.thepathfinderschoolllc.com. We'll be talking all about survival mentality and trapping. Thanks, guys.